Okay, so my infatuation with the 70s continues. I'm a 70s girl. What are you going to say? Stevie Wonder, the Bee Gees, it's all good, right? Welcome back to Race Talk Live. My name is Kate Moss. This is CLNS Radio. And I told you after the break we would have something special. And I have to say I am thrilled because the show is very new. This is our 4th show. And we have a NASCAR driver calling in. And the first driver ever to call in is on the line right now. It is J.J. Yeley. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so honored to be your first NASCAR driver. I didn't realize that you were a virgin, so this is good.
I am. I'm a virgin in terms of this, and, you know, when I was thinking about it today, I was like, this is incredible. I've met you in the past, but I used to work with a different radio station. I had a different show, and I've met you at Pocono before, and let me tell you, you've always been so nice and respectful. Like, you're really, really a great guy, and I really like talking to you. I've interviewed you in the past, and I just, like I said, want to thank you for getting me out of the virgin mode.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me on.
Your first Cup race was back in 2004, and you drove for Joe Gibbs Racing. What was the Cup circuit like for you back then when you started, and how has your perspective as a driver changed since then?
Well, I was really new completely to anything stock car in 2004. You know, I'd spent my entire life racing open wheel midgets and sprint cars on the dirt tracks across the country. I didn't transition even to racing pavement until 1998, which was funny because I think my 4th time ever racing asphalt was in an Indy car, of all things.
Wow.
So, you know, the transition to stock cars was a fast-paced one. You know, the cars are so much different, and just trying to get used to the way they drove, the things I need to have changed on the cars, and you know, really my rookie year, 2004, they threw everything at me. I ran 14 nationwide races, an ARCA race, and attempted to run, I think, 4 Cup races. And
wow.
It was exciting, and at the same time it was very difficult because, you know, knowing now that, you know, obviously the Sprint Cup Series is the most difficult in the United States, and I think it is probably one of the elite racing groups in the world, just for the fact of there's not too many groups that, you know, when they start on race day, that there's, you know, 10 to 15 cars that legitimately have a shot at winning the race. And then you go to restrictor plate race, and obviously anything can happen. And, you know, usually there's maybe 4 or 5 cars. So the competition level in NASCAR is huge, and especially when you get to the Sprint Cup level.
Yeah, well, you have raced in the Indy 500 for the IRL, and some drivers actually do come from that series, and they cross over into the NASCAR series. And to a newer racing fan, if somebody's listening, we have a lot of listeners that are new to the series, they're new to the sport. What are the similarities and differences between, say, Indy and NASCAR?
I mean, really, there's no similarities between an Indy car and a stock car. You know, I ran a handful of races in 1998, 99, maybe I think a total of maybe 14 Indy car races. And, again, it was just a completely different feel, the speed, the downforce, the way they drive. You know, I think ultimately with an Indy car, so much more technology, and you rely more on the car and the engineers. And the driver, at the end of the day, I think is a smaller percentage of what it takes to win. And only because you can't take a 10th place Indy car and go win with it. It's virtually impossible. Where with stock cars and NASCAR and the way these cars drive and the different lines that you can choose, you're able to change your line, change your driving style, and help the car maybe a little bit more to where you've got that opportunity. So, you know, I'd say it's a little more driver-friendly, but, you know, there's still a lot of circumstances that come along with it.
Well, Indy actually is going to be racing at Pocono this coming weekend, and I know you've raced at Pocono in the NASCAR circuit as well. You know, this past race at Pocono, you were there. What do you think about Indy being at Pocono?
Well, I think it'll be awesome. I mean, obviously the Indy cars ran there for a number of years, you know, and with the shape the racetrack was in prior to them repaving it, you know, I think it would have been difficult to have Indy cars there, just the lack of grip. The track was pretty rough. Now with the new pave and the grip and as smooth as the racetrack is, I'm sure it's going to be very exciting. You know, I've watched some of the IRL races this year. They put on a great show. and I'm assuming that it'll be about the same when they go there. So I'm sure that'll be fun. It'll be the first time in history, or at least recent history, that a car will have taken the tunnel turn wide open. I know a lot of stock cars have tried it, and a lot of guys have failed. So it'll be an interesting race, and I think the fans will enjoy it.
Something that you've done, which is quite impressive, and I was reading about you today because I wanted to know more information than I already knew about you, but you won, it's like the Triple Crown in USAC. You've won 3 series. You won the National Sprint, the Silver Crown, and the National Midget Series. It's, like I said, the Triple Crown in racing. Since you've run that series, you've run Indy, you've run stock cars. We've been talking a lot on the show about safety in NASCAR, especially after, the unfortunate death of Jason Leffler. How, as a driver, do you feel that the different racing series are handling safety?
Oh, I think everyone's doing a great job, but at the end of the day, it's left up to the driver and the team to make sure that they are keeping up with technology and making sure that they're doing everything they can to be safe. And, I've known Jason a number of years. We started racing against each other when we both lived on the West Coast and raced against him my entire life. And, sometimes, since his passing, it's just, it still hasn't really hit home that what an unfortunate thing happened to him there in Bridgeport, New Jersey. But that being said, I mean, it's a very fast racetrack. I've run big block modifieds there before, and it's a 5/8 mile, super fast racetrack. Obviously, they had a part failure and sent his car into the wall. And I haven't seen the final results from the investigation, but I have a lot of friends that are in the safety side of it, as well as the manufacturing side for the midgets and sprint cars. So I understand what happened. I have an idea, and obviously when I go and play, I guess is what you call it, when I go run a midget sprint car, I try to make sure that I've got all the safety nets, everything that I need to make sure, because sometimes when you make that jump like we've done, Tony Stewart, there's a lot of us that came through midgets and sprint cars and then still go back and do it on occasion. Because the speeds are lower, you don't take into consideration that they are probably 3 times more dangerous to race than driving a cup car or an Indy car on a Saturday or Sunday, wherever we may be. There's a lot more to it. The cars are a lot faster. They have more horsepower than what they used to. And, ultimately the chassis haven't changed and the components haven't really changed that much either. So the safety side of it, you really have to think about everything you can do to make yourself safer, just because the cars are going faster and bad things, obviously can happen.
How much do you rely on your spotter during the race? And how important is that spotter to you?
It depends. When he does a good job and he helps me avoid an accident, he's a lot. But I don't usually I don't like having a spotter constantly chirping in my ear. Usually I've spent a good portion of my career racing without a spotter. So there's a few of us. I mean, again, if you listen like Tony Stewart, you very seldom ever hear his spotter. Where you have certain drivers that love hearing their spotter. They like that, a coach. They need a cheerleader.
Like a
they need someone tell them.
Right.
Well, it's basically a cheerleader. You have someone always in the ear telling you to do a good job. Keep your laps up. I make sure that I keep up with my lap times and do it about every 3 laps. And but I try not to get too much into having my spotter go, just because at some points it gets annoying. But obviously being here in Daytona this weekend with our Golden Corral Chevrolet, I got 400 miles of having him in my ear telling me inside outside, because you're virtually always around the car when you're doing speedway racing.
Oh, sure, especially restrictor plate racing. Well, this weekend, like you mentioned, does bring us to Daytona. And do you have any predictions for the weekend? How do you feel about how you're going to do this weekend?
I'm excited. We had a top 10 at the Daytona 500. We were running very well at the end of the race at Talladega. I had actually almost taken the lead before we were caught up with the wreck with Ricky Stenhouse. So, the Speedway program has been really good. We have a special patriotic paint scheme for the Golden Corral number 36 storm this weekend.
Oh, nice.
It's a great story. There's a gentleman out of Oklahoma who is a retired Marine who suffers from multiple sclerosis, so he doesn't have the use of his arms or legs, and he designed this paint scheme using a laser apparatus that hooks to the bill of a hat. And I've had him design a car for me a couple of years ago. And the fact that Golden Corral decided to go ahead and allow him to do it, this is the first time I think they've ever had a special paint scheme coming into July 4th weekend in Daytona, is going to mean a lot. So I know that for Scott Bates, it's great. For Golden Corral, who does so much with our disabled American veterans, it's going to be a great weekend. So hopefully we can get the car out front and hopefully try to win this thing.
Well, I'll be rooting for you. We'll be rooting for you here at CLNS Radio. Thank you so much for calling in, and hopefully sometime you could call in again. I'd love to have you on the show again, JJ.
All right. Well, thank you so much.